Hi everyone, Norma here from Positive Productions and Positive Partnership Dog Training. We're here today with Jackie. She's an 11-month-old Golden Retriever in training. She's still very young and she's learning, but she knows some of her basics. Today we're going to talk a little bit about people's concerns over the years of teaching students how to do dog training. So there's certain things that just kind of repeatedly come up in conversation, and I wanted to talk about a few of those today. One of them is food training and how it was developed, and food training or treat training, reward-based training, how it was started, clicker training. Dog training was started formally back in the 1940s. There is an excellent book out. It's How Dogs Learn by Bailey and Birch. We'll have a link to that at the end of this video. It's a great reference for learning how dogs learned to do certain behaviors and how dog training was developed. But when it comes to dog training, a lot of people still avoid using treats or reward-based training. The thing you have to remember is there's only two ways that things learn. One is to avoid physical or mental pain, punishment, or anguish, or a reward-based, there's something in it for me. So even love and partnership with people is based on the same thing. People love each other because there is something in it for them, whether that's an emotion or whether that's something that's physical. Maybe they, like the same thing. Maybe people like to do boating or horses, or they like to have the same kind of houses. There's some kind of mutual benefit. We need to remember that there's only two ways of learning, and I don't know anybody that has bought a puppy or a dog and set out to say, I want to punish this animal. We just kind of get into this entrapment of we don't like something the animal's doing and we don't understand how to fix it, so we have a tendency to get aggravated or agitated, and then we resort to physical pain and punishment or correction. One of the things that you have to remember when you are looking at how to train and why you're going to train the way that you're going to train is if you get into any type of physical handling of the dog or physical punishment of the dog, you don't know what that outcome's going to be. It's very, very unpredictable. It could work. In some cases it does. It's a small percentage that it does. Or it can actually turn out very badly for you, where the dog gets overly frightened or the dog becomes aggressive, and then you're not quite sure what to do, and you're really running a risk of ruining the relationship with your dog. The reason that we use the type of training that we do, first of all, it is a scientific method of training. Okay, it's based on reward and consequence, operant conditioning, so cause and effect. Dog does one thing, we do another. It's a predictable outcome. We know if we stick to what we're doing with the training that we will have results. We don't have to worry too much about a dog becoming aggressive or becoming frightened with this type of training. You can also use your dog's food. So this does not have to be treats. It can actually just be food training. If my dog eats this much food all day long, I would want to measure that out in the morning and use that as their training treats all day long. Making sure that we're not overfeeding them, making sure that we're not feeding them junk food, we're actually feeding them healthy dog food that is just simply used as a reward process during the day for training. The more you incorporate this in part of your daily life, the faster the dog's going to learn. I don't want you to set out a certain time of day, like between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock when you train the dog. If you have a child, you're not just going to say, I'm going to make this child behave between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and then all the other times during the day, he can do whatever he wants to do. If you do that, you're not going to be effective at all. Same way with your dog. If you're only setting aside a certain part of the day to train your dog, that's the only time of the day that the dog's going to behave. The rest of the day is going to be very difficult for you. Please incorporate your training with every single thing that your dog is doing with you. One of the things that we're going to work on today is what's called resource guarding. And this can be anything. It can be a toy, it could be a doggy bone, it could be a bowl of dog food. All dogs can actually get to the point where they do resource guarding. It's where they have something, they don't want you to have it, and if you stick your hand down there, they possibly could bite you. Be very careful about teasing a dog when they have a toy. I see people using their feet, playing with toys, that kind of stuff, and it really causes the dog to become overly protective of their items. Some people think it's funny, especially with small dogs. Small dogs will be laying on the bed chewing on their bone, and people will start tapping the bone, and the little dog will be kind of doing one of these, and the lip will come up, and people think that's funny because they're so small. Small dogs are displaying the same types of behavior as a large dog would. We would probably not want to do that with a Rottweiler, and most people would not do that with a Rottweiler because they know that it could lead to some bad bites. A lot of people do this with tiny dogs like Chihuahua because they think it's funny. And then you have a dog who bites the children or guards the bed or guards the couch, and that's why those problems happen. So please do not ever tease a dog when they have a toy or a bone or something that's theirs. We're going to talk about food. There are some dogs out there that, especially rescues, are very bad about their bowls. So when you put your food bowl down and you send the dog to eat their dinner, you don't want to stick your hands down there. Please be careful about the information that you are reading off of the internet or books or wherever you're getting your information from. There's articles about, giving your dog food and putting your food in their bowl, so it would look like this. Good girl, get it. People are down here playing with their food while they're trying to eat. Actually, that makes a dog aggressive. If you can think about somebody playing with your food on your plate while you're trying to eat your dinner, how aggravating that would be. There's also things that say to pet your dog while they're eating so they get used to this. Again, that's very aggravating for a dog and will actually make the dog become food possessive or actually aggressive. Leave them alone while they're eating. If you're going to do anything, add food to the bowl. Put your hand down so food is coming into the bowl. You're not taking it away. This is really important if you have small children. If you have a dog that's already bowl aggressive or food aggressive, use a large spoon or a ladle, put the food in the ladle and use that to drop it into the bowl. As this dog sees my hand coming down, I'm adding to her bowl, I'm not taking it away. Don't ever do things like this with your feet. Again, that's very aggravating for the dog. Always just adding to the bowl, good girl. So she's learning that my hand coming down is a good thing. I'm not taking anything away. I'm giving it to her. There are lots of information out there about never playing tug of war with your dog. There's people that say that this makes a dog aggressive. You have to be very careful about how you play tug of war. You don't want to pull this way because you can actually hurt your dog's neck. There are some bully breeds out there that you're not going to hurt their neck because they're so strong. Pit bulls, bull terriers, even some little dogs like Boston terriers, you can literally pick them off the ground. But most dogs you cannot do that with without possibly injuring their spine. When you play, you can play back and forth this way. Dogs' necks were meant to go back and forth. And you can see she's very gentle. Some dogs are really, really gentle about this. Some dogs are not. Get that toy. Good girl. Good girl. Here, baby. I'm going to exchange the toy for cookies, always, 100% of the time, if this is something that is hers. So if this is her ball, her chewy, her fuzzy, whatever it might be, I'm going to give her food in exchange for the toy. Okay? I want her to offer this freely and not try to avoid my hands. Ready? Go get it. Good girl. Come here, Jackie. Hand goes under, food comes over the top. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, good girl. If I need to, I'll step on the leash so she doesn't leave. Good girl, come on. And cookie. Good girl. I only want to do that a couple of times because what happens is we have a tendency to take a ball and throw it until the dog is ready to fall down because we're trying to get him exercise. What will eventually happen is the dog gets tired of the game and he goes and he lays underneath the table and he keeps his toy. We want to make sure that they bring these toys back to us and hand them to us. We need to be careful about grabbing things away from the dog. The reason that she brings this back to me is I have never gone to her and taken stuff out of her mouth. I have never, tried to get her toy away from her. I've always made her bring the toy to me and I've always given her a reward for doing so. One of the things that you have to be very careful of is when dogs steal things that are yours, you do not want to trade them. So there's a big difference between me giving her a treat for this toy, which is hers, and let's say she grabs my shoe. I wouldn't give her a treat for grabbing my shoe because it's something that I don't want her to do. So you're gonna be like, okay, well, what do you do if she grabs something she's not supposed to have? I'm gonna pretend that this is my shoe and I don't want her to get that. So if she has something that she's not supposed to have, I'm gonna step on her leash. So I'm not gonna chase her, step on her leash. I go underneath the chin and I take this out of her mouth. I don't say anything to her. If anything, I will tell her mine. She does not get a cookie for it, but I don't chase it either. One of the things that we see a lot is when a dog gets a hold of something he's not supposed to, people scream and yell, and no, give me that, gimme, no, 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 drop, drop. All that crazy stuff, especially with children. They chase the dog. Once you start, chase me, catch me if you can, get the thing out of my mouth, it becomes a real problem. So if that's the case, leave the harness on the dog, let the leash drag in the house, dog gets something that he's not supposed to have, quietly walk over, step on the leash, go down, hold the dog by the collar, take the item out of the dog's mouth, and just say mine. Okay? Do not exchange him a treat, because that's how we teach them to retrieve. If you do that with a dog like a golden retriever or a Labrador, they're going to retrieve your entire house. If every time they get a shoe, you give them a treat, or you get a towel, you give them a treat, you know, whatever, they're going to retrieve everything. Please remember, they are golden retrievers or Labrador retrievers, which means everything is in their mouth. Teach them what's appropriate. They have their toys, and they're not to touch your items. If you're training a service dog, be very, very careful about how many times you scream and yell at a dog for picking up a shoe or picking up a pencil, a piece of paper, a magazine. Eventually, service dogs are going to be doing all of those things for you. So puppy-proof your home, clean up your house, keep your dog on his leash. Be very careful about what you do when they get something in their mouth that they're not supposed to have. Just quietly reach down, take a hold of the collar, out of the mouth, mine, put it up. The other thing that poses a problem for a lot of people is dogs chewing on things that they're not supposed to. So let's say they're chewing on the edge of the woodwork, or they're chewing on the leg of a piece of furniture or whatever. First of all, my dogs are, when they're young, they're never off a harness and leash in the house, because I want to be right there to say, don't do that. But let's say you don't follow that. There's information out there that talks about replacing what the dog is doing badly with their toy or a chew toy or some kind of chewy object. Say the dog is chewing on this, and you walk up and you have a toy of some kind, and you distract the dog away from their chewing and give the dog the toy. What you've accidentally done is reinforce chewing. So what you do is, dog's chewing, you need to distract the dog, interrupt the dog from what he's doing. So I would do something like, hey. Dog's gonna startle a little bit, good girl. Then he's gonna walk away from this. Then you give the dog the reward because he's walked away and he's stopped that. That's a really big one that I see a lot, is dogs chewing on something, and the books and tapes and all of that have told people to distract the puppy with a toy, and you're accidentally reinforcing chewing on something. So be very careful. Or exchanging. Dog has a shoe, so you run and get his toy, and you give him his toy in exchange for your shoe. You're teaching him how to retrieve your shoe so you can play with the toy. You take the shoe away from the dog, mine, no big deal. Then you get the dog to sit, then you give him a chewy toy. Make sure that you put a behavior in between the naughty behavior and the reward. I do a lot of private consultations, and people bring up things that they don't necessarily like about their dog, about their puppy. One of the things is chewing on your hands. Be very, very careful how you're petting your dog. I couldn't figure out for a long time why people would complain so much about dogs chewing their hands, and when I would, get a dog and work with the dog, they didn't necessarily want to chew on me, and I didn't quite understand what the difference was, why they were doing that. A lot of it is how you pet your dog. People have a tendency to do this. Stop. It really, really teaches them how to chew on your hands. As much as we like to do this is your dog's face. This is like you doing this to a human's face. Or remember the little noogie that you used to give little boys? It's very annoying. Please pet your dogs from the ear back or underneath the chin. Stay off their face. What young dogs will do, Jackie has learned to tolerate this because this is something that we do with our service dogs because we know the public is going to do that. But what happens with younger dogs is they will start to swing their head around and start to mouth on you. It's their way of saying, get off of my face, stop doing that to me. I'd like to bite you, but I'm not going to because I know I shouldn't. So mouthing, which is where the dog grabs your hands, can be a real problem, especially if it's with an older person or a person who has thinner skin, maybe from blood thinners. It really causes a lot of problems. I've seen people come in that are literally scarred from hands to elbows, and they just look like they've been in a war. People that have to wear long sleeves around their dogs, all kinds of stuff. A couple different things that you can do. The best way to solve this is put something on your hands and your arms, not the bottom part, but the top part of your hands, down your arms, that tastes bad. There's a lot of lotions out there that have perfumes in them that have a very bad taste to them. If you just stick a little bit on your tongue and it's like bitter or sour, it's going to be bitter or sour to the dog. You can do that every day with your hands and you're just basically going to taste bad to your dog. It works great with children. One of the products that I found is if you go to any drugstore and get a lotion with mosquito repellent for babies or small children, it tastes badly. If you just put that on your arms, it has a little bit of bug repellent in it. It's meant for small children, so it's not meant to hurt you. Put it on your arms, put it on the back of your hands. You don't want to put it on the palms of your hands because we pet our dogs with this size of our hands. We don't want the dog to totally stay away from us, but when the dog puts his mouth on your arm, you taste bad and he lets go. You don't have to do anything. There's other ways of doing this, but it does require some interaction on your part. If the dog puts his mouth on your arm like this, you can just gently squeeze his lip into his tooth and say, ouch. But sometimes that will cause the dog to bite back a little harder. I much prefer putting something on you that tastes badly. You have to do it every day, a minimum of 30 days. Same way with your kids. If your dog plays with people's feet or shoes or the pants leg, spray the kids or spray your feet with, there's all kinds of natural insect repellents, the citronellas, all of those things. That if you don't want to spray anything that's an actual insect repellent, you can use something that's natural organic spray that has citronella. Tastes bad too. That is something that will keep the dog from chewing on your hands, your pants, your clothing. It really does help, especially if you have small children or older people in your household. Make sure that you put that on them. The dog will stop it right away. It also works for leash chewing. If you have a dog that likes to chew on the leash, and I never let my dogs put their mouth on the leash. Some people think it's cute where the golden retrievers or the Labradors walk themselves, where this part of the leash is in the dog's mouth. The dog is actually controlling what you're doing. It's his way of saying, I don't like being controlled when they carry their leash so much. Give them something else to carry. Give them a stick, give them a toy, give them something else to carry if that's what they really like to do. But you can take, again, maybe natural bug repellent, spray it on the leash, both sides, let it dry before you put it on the dog. And then if you do that every single day, if the dog reaches over to grab his leash, he tastes bad, he's gonna stop doing it. Got to do it for a minimum of 30 days. Don't spray it around the dog. We don't want this on the dog with you spraying bug repellent. Take it off the dog, off to the side, spray it, let it dry, put it back on the dog. The edge of carpets, a lot of dogs love to eat the edges of carpeting. There are products out there that are no chew for dogs. I have yet to find anything. It works on a small percentage. I would say about 25% of the dogs, they'll taste something that has chew stop on it, and they'll be like, ugh. Some of them actually like the taste of it. I use a bug repellent. I spray the edge of the rug, I leave it dry, and then when the dog goes back to it, it tastes bad. Anything that you can do where the dog thinks he caused the problem is ideal. Garbage cans. Let's talk about garbage cans, guys. Stop throwing food in the trash can. You need to just have one trash can that is for paper and maybe metal cans or something like that. And then if you have another trash can, put it underneath your sink, put it up on top of the sink, do something. But you cannot put bacon wrappers in the trash can and expect any normal dog to not dump over the trash can. Be careful about what you put in the trash cans.